Hello there and welcome to Big Friendly Grub. I hope you're well, and I've got a very exciting episode of Big Friendly Grub for you today because we are heading off to the US of A. Well, actually we're not, because that involves money, it's expensive to travel, and I don't have the money to travel over to the USA. But I am going to bring the USA to us, or at least the really good parts like the food, because I do love the USA, I do, but it's got some fundamental flaws which we won't go into here. But one thing they do know about is how to make really great, wholesome, rich, fulfilling food, if that makes sense. I've got many adjectives for it, and most of them aren't coming into my brain right now. But they do make some fantastic, iconic food, and I've got a real affinity for the food that they have in the southern states of the USA. You know, like the slow cooked barbecue and things like that. They're some of my favourite dishes in the whole world. You know, I love things like slow cooked pulled pork, beef brisket, things like that. Unfortunately, I can't really do those very effectively in my flat. To do things like proper beef brisket, you need like an outdoor smoker or something like that. And I have no outdoors. I live in a flat. I can't do that stuff, unfortunately. But another dish that I love from the US is their chili, especially the Texas chili. Now, if you don't know what a Texas chili is, the fundamental difference between that and like a regular chili con carne or something like that is that basically a Texas chili doesn't have any beans in, which for some people might be quite strange. Most people associate chili with having beans in and things like that, but a Texas chili doesn't have that. And a lot of the times I also see that it doesn't have any tomatoes in. But I've also seen recipes where it does have tomatoes in. So basically a Texas chili is kind of what you want it to be. I know that sounds like a bit of a cop-out, but it's true. I mean, you know, Texas chili is basically, it's a really rich, fulfilling, wholesome dish where basically you can use whatever you've got to hand and it can be as complex or as simple as you like. I think so long as you don't have beans in it, then you're good to go. Personally, I prefer to do it without tomatoes as well. I've seen most of the recipes I see are without tomatoes, so that's what I'm doing today. So not only I'm going to show you how to make a Texas chili, I'm going to show you how to make it with 3 different kinds of beef in it. Because we're not going to be using tomatoes, we're not going to be using the beans. The main focus is going to be on the meat that we put in it. So I want us to have really great flavours and textures from the meat that we're going to be putting into this chili. Now, obviously with a great chili, you need to have great accompaniments. So a lot of people tend to have rice with their chili. I don't think that's quite so common with Texas chili. I could be wrong. Sometimes I'll see like tortilla chips being served up with Texas chili, and that is a great option as well. But to go with our chili today, I'm going to be showing you how to make another iconic American dish in cornbread. So yes, I'm going to be showing you how to make delicious homemade cornbread as well. If you've never had cornbread before, it's fantastic. It's slight sweetness to it. Yeah, it goes really well by itself, but it's also a fantastic accompaniment to things like chilies and stews and things like that. Yeah, it's great for like mopping up the juices from chilies and things like that. So 2 dishes for the price of 1 today. So holds up 4 fingers. 2 dishes for the price of 1 today. So this chili's going to take a bit of time. It's going to be a long, slow cook. There's going to be a little bit of prep work to start off with. We've got to have to cook our meat in batches and things like that. But once all the prep work's done, we can just chuck it on the heat and leave it. It's going to be quite simple. So we're going to have to get started because this is going to be a long, slow cook. So come follow me and we'll get started. Enthusiastic thumbs up. Oh, hello there. Fancy seeing you here. I'm glad you could join me because I'm actually just in the middle of some prep work for our chili. There's a lot of veg and stuff to prepare for this, so I thought instead of you seeing me chop it all up and all of that rigmarole, I thought I'd get a head start and do some of the chopping and preparation now so you don't have to watch all of that. So you can see in front of me, I've got a bowl of onions here. Here are 2 large onions that I've really chopped and sliced up. They don't have to be too precise. You could chop them into chunks as well if you want to. As long as they are all chopped up, you are all good. I've also prepared some garlic. I've got a whole bulb of garlic here because I love garlic. So you can probably see I've got a whole bulb of garlic in there. And I've also got here 3 red chilies because obviously this is a chili and we need some chilies in it. So these are just regular red chilies. They're like 3 long ones. And I've chopped those up, kept the seeds in, kept the white in, because I do like a bit of heat to my chili. Obviously, you're going to tailor your chili to your tastes, and if you don't like a lot of heat, then you don't have to do a lot of heat. While it is a chili, it doesn't have to be burn your face off. Ah, so much heat. Yeah, I'm a lad. Hot. It doesn't. As long as you've got a great depth of flavour, that's the main important thing for your chilli. It doesn't have to be blisteringly hot. I like a bit of heat to mine, but I also like a good amount of flavour, and I don't need to burn my face off just to prove that I'm a lad to do that. I've also got 3 jalapeños here, which I have chopped and sliced up. These will also be going in. These aren't amazingly hot, but I do like the flavour they give, so these are going in as well, and they're not finely diced, they're going in as slices of jalapeno. And to complete our trifecta of peppers here, we've got Romano peppers here. These are lovely, long, sweet Romano peppers. They've got a lovely sweet flavour to them. So I'm going to be popping these in as well. I haven't sliced them yet because one of the first things I'm going to do before slicing these is I'm going to take my cook's blowtorch here, and I am going to be just blistering the outside of these to get some lovely charring on them. So you don't have to have a cook's blowtorch to do this. What you can also do is you could do this over a direct heat like your hob or something like that, or you could possibly do them in the oven, perhaps put them under the grill so that the skin blisters up as well. But what I'm going to use is this puppy here. Very, very careful, and just start blistering the outside of this pepper. I'm not going to go overboard. I'm also going to try and not melt my chopping board. Now you can skip this step if you want to. You don't have to necessarily char and blister your peppers before doing so, but this will add some lovely, lovely flavour to it. And there you go, we've got some just nice, simple blistering on there. You could go even further, you could blacken it right up, but I've just gone for some light charring on there, just to give it that little bit of extra flavour. And then I'm just going to grab this and chop it up into chunks. I'm going to repeat that for the other 2 peppers. It's just a nice step. You don't have to do it, but I really like to. So I'm going to finish these off, and then we can get on with the cooking the meat part. You get back on there. Right, now that our veg prep is, well, prepped, we can now get on with the crux of the chili, which is the meat. And I don't want to be that guy who goes, meat, yes, all macho and stuff like that, but the crux of a Texas chili is plenty of beef, and we have got that in spades. Not literally in spades, that would be unhygienic. I've got it in bowls and things, but I have got plenty of beef and stuff to get into this chili. But before I do that, I'm going to start off with some bacon lardons. I've got smoked bacon lardons here. These are just basically just chunks of bacon. I've gone for the smoked bacon lardons because a lot of the time Texas chilies can be done on the outside barbecue. You found that it done and cooked over a smoky heat and stuff like that. So I can't do that here, but what I can do is try and emulate all the smoky flavours by using things like smoked bacon. So in goes the smoked bacon. I've got a pan over probably a medium-high heat here. And what I'm just going to do is just cook this until it's browned, and it'll get some of the lovely bacon fat out, which we can then use to cook some of the rest of our meat in. So I'm just going to cook this until it browns. Basically everything that we do with meat is being done in batches. So we're going to do this, take it out, put in the next batch of meat, cook that, and so on and so forth, because we don't want to sweat our meat. We want to get some lovely colour onto it. Right, so our bacon is just starting to get some nice brown bits on it. You can see it's released a lot of the fat and juices from it, which we can use to cook the next batch of meat in. So I'm going to grab me a bowl, and I'm just going to transfer all of this into that bowl. As I said before, while there are a lot of steps to this chili, once we've got past all of these steps, we can just put it away, let it bubble away, forget about it, and go off and do something else. Enjoy your day, basically. So that's our bacon out. And with our bacon out, we are putting in 500 grams of beef mince, and I've gone for the 15% fat mince here because it's going to be so much nicer. You want some of that fat in there to be able to basically cook down and release its flavours. And we're going to cook this mince until it's really nice and brown. We're going to want some lovely crispy bits on it as well, give it real flavour. If you wanted to be a bit healthier, you could go for a lean beef mince, but I don't think the point of a really good Texas chili is to be overly healthy, to be honest. It's a treat thing. It's one of those things you're not going to make every single day. It's something for a weekend, it's something for when you've got guests coming around. And again, because it is like one of those things that you can prepare early in the morning and then just put on and forget about, it means you can have this bubbling away while you're chatting to your guests. You can hang out with your guests and not have to be there standing away over a stove for an hour, 2 hours, making whatever you want to make. You just do all the prep in the morning and then just let it go. As they say in Frozen, let it go, let it go. So that's all broken up into good sized bits. So I'm just going to let this brown off now. Get some really good colour on it. Just move it around, don't let it stick in one place for too long, because otherwise you'll just end up charring some parts of it and the other parts will stay this pink colour. Just when it's evenly cooked. Right, our mince has had a good 10-15 minutes cooking here, and it's got some really nice brown bits, got some really nice colour, and there's some lovely smells coming from here, even though Ray just cooked 2 things, not added any spices or anything like that. So, same as before, got the bowl with my beef, that's not beef, with my bacon lardons in. Going to transfer the mince out of here. So put this back to one side again. Now the next batch we're going to cook in our pan is our beef steak. So I've got some already diced beef steak here. Couldn't tell you what cut it is because it doesn't actually say on the pack, but I'm guessing it's some kind of steak cut, might be a rump or a sirloin or something like that. But you could use any sort of steak cut that you want. You could go out and buy your own and chop it up yourself. I was just being lazy because the prep work was done for me. So I'm going to pop this into here. Don't want that in there, that won't taste good. And then I'm just going to cook this until it's all browned up. So just make sure it's just all browned up on each side. That's all we're going to want to do with it. We're not going to cook it for very long, this, because it will do most of its cooking down when we're actually cooking up the chili itself. This is just to get some colour and some flavour onto it. Right, now our beef steak is all browned up. It's all browned on each side. Might be a little bit of pink showing through here and there, but that doesn't matter too much because that will be cooked through once we're actually cooking the chili up. So once again, bowl, spoon, steak. Now I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, Matt, surely that's enough meat by now. You've got loads of beef there. And you might be right, but you also might be wrong, because I'm also going to be adding in a beef short rib. So this is a lovely rib cut of beef, and I'm going to move this over to one side while I'm talking. This cut is ideal for slow cooking, so it's just going to cook and slowly fall off the bone. We're just going to get some colour onto this by popping it into the pan. We're going to leave the bone in while we cook it within the chili, and everything's just going to fall off that bone, and then we can just take the bone out afterwards. So I'm just going to pop this in just to get some colour on all sides of it. So I'm just going to move this around the pan, get a little bit of colour on each side just to give it some extra flavour. You could pop it in as is without having to do this stage. I like to get a bit of colour on all the meat before it becomes the chili. Oh look, bones come away already, but I'm going to keep that because you get some lovely flavour from the bone as well. So no problem there. Right, that's literally just had a minute or so cooking away. So I'm just going to take this out, pop it in with the rest of my meat. But we are now at the point where we can start adding in our vegetables and everything else and actually building up our chili. So for the veg, the first thing I'm going to do is get a little bit more oil in there because a lot of the oil was used up while cooking our meat. So just a teaspoon, 2 teaspoons of oil there just to get our veg going. And then we're going to pop in our onions that we chopped up earlier. They all go into the bottom. We're just going to cook those around until they start to get a little bit of colour and soften down. Not too much though. So our onions have had a couple of minutes and they're just starting to soften down and get a nice little bit of colour on them from those meat juices and things that we've had in there. Up next is our red chillies and our garlic. We're going to get some amazing smells and flavours from this. Get that in there as well, start cooking it around, that's a new term I just came up with. Moving it around, again just give that a minute or so just to get some colour and get some of the flavours out. We're not going to want to overcook our garlic because that will turn it bitter and not give it a very nice flavour, so we just want to give it a minute or so, no more. Right, our garlic and chillies have had a good minute or so, and now we can chuck in our charred Romano peppers that we charred up earlier. Don't worry if there's some of the seeds in there. You might think, oh, he's still throwing some of the seeds in, oh my god! But what's the big deal? They're just peppers like the chili peppers. The chili peppers, people keep the seeds in all the time, so what's the big deal? So stir that around quickly, get that combined with those, and then our jalapeños as well. Get those in too. Look at all those different colours in there. We've got the red and yellow and orange from the lovely Romano peppers. We've got the green, and we've got those onions in there as well. We've got such a fantastic plethora of colour in there. It looks fantastic, and some fantastic flavours as well. This would obviously give you the great base for a vegetable chilli if you wanted to do that. But that's not what we're doing today. But if you want to go down the vegetable chilli route, then this is a fantastic base for that. All you literally have to do is sub out the meat for whatever you use to make your vegetable chilli, really. Use beans or something like that. I have never made a vegetable chilli myself, but maybe I will give it a go one day, because I am all about trying to diversify my diet. So our jalapeños and Romano peppers have had another minute or so. So I am going to get our meat back into here. Then I'm just going to chuck all this back in. There's loads of juices that have come out of that as well. Get all of those in there as well, especially that's flavour. That is Flavour Town, population U. So get those in there. Combine all that together, get everything mixed in. Now that is starting to form the basis of a very, very tasty chilli. Right, now we've got all our meat and vegetables in. We're going to actually want to get some spices into here. So I have got a really good selection of spices to go into here. These are my personal favourites to put into a chilli. You can use whatever you darn well please. I just find these ones work the best for me. So I'm going to start off with a bit of salt. Not too much, because there's already salt in that bacon. So just a little pinch of salt and some pepper. Just going to give it a few grinds of pepper. That is our two classic seasonings to go in. I love black pepper, so I'm doing a good amount of that for me. Then I'm adding in a tablespoon of chili powder, hot chili powder in this case. You could use a mild if you want to dial down the spice. And then a tablespoon of smoked paprika to give it that lovely smoky taste that I spoke about before. Smoked paprika is awesome in most things, especially chilies. Then half a tablespoon of garlic granules and half a tablespoon of onion granules. You might be thinking, he's already got onion and garlic in there, but the granules actually give it a slightly different hint of flavour to it. A tablespoon of cumin powder, then a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. And lastly, for a beautiful hit of sweetness, we're going to add in some dark brown muscovado sugar. So I'm going to go with about 100 grams of this. So I am saying literally about, because I'm going to eyeball this by taking a good couple of handfuls. This is probably roughly 100 grams. Might be a bit more, might be a bit less. But as long as I'm in that ballpark, that's all good. And I'm just going to poke that down into all of that meat and veg, and we are going to get some amazing smells from this. People who come round your house for this are going to go, oh my god, what is that amazing smell? And you're going to be like, that's me, well, that's my chili. You could say it's you, but why would you smell like meat and spice? That'd be a bit weird. So you can already see that sugar's already imparted some amazing colour onto that. Now obviously this can't be a chili without some decent liquid in there. Now what you use here is kind of up to you. What I like to use in my chili is beer, and even though I don't drink anymore, I do recognise that beer goes wonderfully into a chili, because depending on the beer you can get all sorts of different flavours into your beer. Into your chili. So I am using a couple of American pale ales here, Sierra Nevada pale ales. They're very good ales. When I did drink, I did enjoy them. I have no qualms about using alcohol in food, because it will all get cooked off. If you do feel a bit uneasy about using alcohol, or you don't want to use beer or anything like that, you could use beef stock as well. That will work perfectly fine. Or you could simply use water, because there's going to be loads of flavour in this anyway. But I'm going to use 2 bottles of beer, which amounts to about 660 millilitres of liquid. And then I'm also just going to add in a splash of hot sauce. Now I'm not looking at the hot sauce for the heat necessarily, but just to get some more of that lovely chili flavour into it. And this is made with red jalapeños and Also, some of that vinegar that they use to make hot sauces will also go very well into this. I'm not going to go overboard, just give it a splash. There we go. We now just need to bring this up to a gentle simmer before we can get the lid on. Now you might be thinking, why have you used so many types of meat in there? What's the point? Different types of meat are going to impart different flavour into our chili, and it's also going to impart different textures as well. In there you might get a nice bit of that charred mince that we did, which was slightly browned. You might also get like a nice chunk of the steak that we've got in there, or you might get a lovely bit of slow cooked short rib as well. So you can see this has started to come up to a gentle simmer. Last thing I'm going to chuck in is I've got a cinnamon stick in here, which I'm just going to just snap, not completely break, but just pop in there. And that is also going to impart a lovely bit of that cinnamon sweetness in there. On goes our lid. And then this is just going to be put down to a low heat, a very low heat, and this is just going to be allowed to cook away for a good 5 to 6 hours for this, and we can come back and we can see how our chili is getting on, and it's going to be absolutely wonderful, I assure you. Oh, hey, what's that? Oh, I'm just having a cup of coffee, why? Oh, the cornbread, of course. Yes, don't worry, I haven't forgotten about it. It's just that this is going to take a good 4 to 5, 6 hours to bubble away. And we want our cornbread to be a little bit warm before we serve it. So I'm not going to actually be preparing the cornbread until a bit later, because I'm just having a coffee now. Is that okay? Cool, don't worry, we will be doing the cornbread. It's just I'm having a bit of a break, that's all. Busy day today, busy day. So yeah. Don't worry, hang around. We'll be getting to the cornbread in absolutely no time at all. In fact, because I can edit this, for you, it will literally be no time at all. In fact, it will be right now. Right, to make our cornbread, it's actually quite simple. All we're going to need is 125 grams of cornmeal, or at least the closest I can find here is polenta pretty much, which is just similar to cornmeal. It's kind of like pre-cooked corn flour. I'll probably have someone say in the comments, oh, you can't use polenta, it has to be cornmeal, but cornmeal is really hard to get over here, especially in Hove. So this is what I'm using. So I'm going to be using 125 grams of this. This goes into here. The same amount of plain flour, then in with our equal amounts of cornmeal and flour. We're adding in 100 grams of golden caster sugar. You can probably vary the amounts of this depending on how sweet you want it. I'm going for about 100 grams because that works quite well for me. There we go, close enough. Then we'll also want a teaspoon of salt. Again, you could probably adjust this, but I find a teaspoon is usually good. 1 teaspoon of salt. And we want 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder to help it rise. Now, despite the name cornbread, I suppose it is a bread of a sort, but it's not a kind of dough we're making. It's probably got to be more like a batter. So, and then another 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder there. Yeah, it's more like a batter we're going to be making, so it'll be a bit more liquidy than you would expect for a bread. So we're also going to add in 50 grams of melted butter, 1 egg, 1 large egg. Try and get no shell in there. There we go. Then lastly, about 240 millilitres of milk. Then I'm going to get in here with my spoon and mix this all together. There we go. That looks like it's come together quite well. Managed to get rid of pretty much all of the lumps. That's quite smooth. And like I said, it's more like a batter than a dough. In fact, it's definitely a batter. It's nowhere near a dough. So that is what we're after. Now, for this, we are going to need to switch to the hob, to the oven, and get this cooked. So our chili has been bubbling away for a good 5 hours or so, and we can now have a bit of a look at it. It's not going to be ready. The reason being is because we've been cooking it with the lid on, so that's not allowing any of liquid to evaporate or anything like that. So it's very, very liquidy at this stage, but you can see it's got a lovely, lovely rich colour to it. That's from all the flavourings and everything else that we put into there. You can see that short rib has basically come off the bone now. It's just the bone in there floating around. We'll leave that in there because it's still got flavour. But what we need to do now is we want all this liquid to thicken up and turn into a beautiful sauce. It is way too runny right now. So what we're going to do is I've popped on my back hob to a medium low, and we're going to bring this up to a simmer again, and we are going to let this all bubble up and reduce and turn it into a beautiful chili sauce basically. So this is looking good so far. So I'm going to swap this from the front hob to the back, because I'm going to need this hob next for our cornbread. So that goes up to there. I'm going to just let it come up to bubble. You can see it's already bubbling up nicely, and that's what we're going to let it do for a good hour or so to hopefully let all that thicken up into a beautiful sauce. So while that's doing that, we can get on with making our cornbread. Right, for our cornbread I'm going to be using my cast iron skillet. I'm actually quite excited to use this because I don't get to use it very often, and a lot of cornbread recipes I've always seen people using a cast iron skillet. So that is what I'm doing. I'm trying to be as authentic as I possibly can, and I'm going to chuck in some more butter. I've got about 85 grams here. Like most American recipes, it's not short on butter. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let this butter melt down into the pan, because we're going to cook the cornbread in this butter. It's going to be poured into here, and then we're going to put it into the oven, and this butter is going to soak into the cornbread and make it really rich and delicious, and also hopefully give us a nice golden crispy bottom as well, especially in conjunction cooking in this cast iron pan. Right, that's the butter all melted, so I'm going to grab my spatula, going to grab my cornbread batter, and I'm just going to get this into that pan, get it amongst that butter, spread that around a bit. That butter is going to be up and over it, but that doesn't matter because that will cook and soak into our cornbread. And then I'm going to pop this into the oven at about 180 degrees for about, I'm going to say about 20 minutes, just because I've not cooked cornbread in this oven before, so it might be a bit different. I'm going to have to play it by ear, but I will let you know if that changes at all. So into the oven with this. And we will be back in about 20 minutes, and I'm going to go keep an eye on this now. It has been roughly 20 minutes, probably more like 22, 23 now actually. So I'm going to hop into the oven. Well, I'm not, but you know what I mean. And I'm going to pull out the cornbread. And there we go. Look how lovely and golden brown that is. Make sure, absolutely make sure, when you go to get this out of the oven, if you're using a cast iron pan, to use a glove, because if you instinctively reach for this handle and you're not wearing a glove, it's probably going to be a trip to the hospital if you're unlucky. At the very least, you're going to have your hand under the cold tap for a good 10 minutes or so. But look at that, that's looking really nice. What I'm going to do is, much like you would a cake, I'm just going to poke this in the middle, and it comes out nice and clean, and that is looking pretty good. The texture isn't as even on the top as I would have liked. Perhaps I did put a bit too much butter on the top there, but otherwise that's looking pretty good, and it's smelling fantastic. So I'm going to move this to one side just to cool slightly while we can check on our chili, which should be pretty much there now. So I'm going to move our cornbread to one side, and we can do that right now. So here's our chili, and you can see how much that has reduced down into a gorgeous looking sauce. It's a lot darker and a lot richer than it was before. So I think this is pretty much there. It's not too thick. It's still got a nice little bit of liquidness to it. Liquidness? Is that even a word? I'm just making stuff up now. But you know what I mean. So this is looking great to me. So I'm going to just take these bones out, because as much flavour as they impart, I don't really want them in there. But you can see all of the meat has just melted off those short rib bones, so that is fantastic. So there we go, we can see how much that has reduced down, looking how thick and gorgeous that is. So that is our Texas chili pretty much ready to roll. So I'm going to get this into a bowl and serve it up with my cornbread, and that is going to be my dinner, and that is going to be wonderful. This is going to be so worth the wait. So let's get this served up. Right, I have just served up some of the chili, and just to go with this, I'm going to cut a slice out of our cornbread. There we go, a lovely bit of cornbread there. Looking really good. Look how light and fluffy that is. That is excellent. So I'm going to get that served up onto my plate, and I'm going to go try out our chili and cornbread. So there is our chili all served up with a lovely bit of cheese there and some extra jalapeños, mainly for garnish. And there is our cornbread, looking lovely and golden and fluffy. And there's the rest over the back. Got plenty of spare. Might have to take some of that into work because I know someone who is a fan. But there we go. That is looking really, really good. That is looking lovely and dark. We've got still a good amount of liquid in there, so it won't be too dry. So I have waited for long enough for this. So I'm going to go set up into the usual tasting position, and we will give this a go. So here it is, my Texas chili with homemade cornbread. Oh, it's taken what, 6 or 7 hours? But I can absolutely assure you that this is going to have been worth the wait. I'm just going to grab some of this right now. I'm not even going to talk about this anymore because I've talked about it enough. I'm just waiting to taste it. It smells amazing. Oh, that is beautiful. The meat is so tender. It's lovely and rich. It's got that sweetness from the brown sugar in it, and it's got a lovely bit of heat. It's not too overpowering. It's not like going to blow your head off or anything, but it's just a perfect amount for me. Oh, it's just so good. And now I'm going to just try a little bit of this cornbread. Gonna pop this in. Lovely, so nice. That is going to be the perfect accompaniment to that. Just a hint of sweetness from the sugar, that is probably about the right amount. And I can see why the Americans love cornbread and chili so much. It's such a great combination. Oh, Texas chili is probably my favourite. I think I prefer it without the tomatoes or the beans. I think this is my favourite kind of chili. They call it a bowl of red. I'm not sure the origin of the story, but for me, you can't go wrong with a bowl of red. It's just so good. It's a long wait, but by God, it's worth it. It really is. And the best thing about this is you can tailor it to yourself. So if you don't want to use all those types of beef, you don't have to. You could stick with mince. You could stick with like the steak. You could try oxtail instead of like the short rib. I've done that before. That works very nicely as well. It is tailor-made to you. This one is my take, and for me, it's perfect. But you know, this is a base. You can do whatever you like with it. So give it a go. Give this a go. Give the cornbread a go, and let me know how you get on with it. This is a great meal for when you've got people coming around. So if you make this, make it for guests. Give it a go. See how they react. I'm sure they'll enjoy it. That's it from me. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you enjoy what I've been doing on the channel, then give the channel a subscribe if you haven't already, and just let me know what you think. I am trying to make things as useful and as entertaining for you as I possibly can. But I've been on my feet long enough today. I have just been waiting all day for this, so I'm going to go off and finish this, eat my cornbread. Maybe I'll have another slice as well because I feel like being cheeky. And that's it from me. I will see you next week on another Big Friendly Grub. Take care, guys. Bye.